Yes. So we recorded that album with Dave Jordan. He's out of California, out there in Burbank. And so, where do I start with this whole thing? So we were a local band specifically for 7 years before this whole thing came about. So I think that's why our longevity seems weird to people that it's been 30 years this year because we started really, really young and not a lot happened for 7 years. We were just a band playing a shitload of house parties, basements, schools. We go plug in like just by ourselves and try and draw people in, just making noise, that kind of thing. So we had recorded some demos. At this point, we'd released two EPs, two little local things here that our guitarist Bill's mom and dad had fronted us $1,000 to record. So it was like a 2-day, one take kind of thing called Live Your Life. And then from there, we're like, okay, that's fun. And there were some songs on there that were good. And then we're like, well, we wrote some more songs, one being what would come to be our biggest hit to date, One More Minute, which is the reggae kind of song, which we weren't really a reggae band, which is interesting how
Yeah.
that all happened. You know, we had influence,
That's actually one of those things I love about you guys is because you're you're very punk, very, like not reggae, but you went there.
sure.
And it's weird that crossover works so well. And
Yeah, it
I
was
love it.
interesting. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think with that, so yeah, with that song, Bill brought it to me, and I was like, if it's not fast, I don't want to hear it. I want to skate to it. If I can't skate to it, it's not good. That's my mentality as a kid. I was like, but he brought that to me, and he was really big into blues and funk and stuff like that. The whole band was very eclectic in our different stylistic personalities musically, and so he brought that to me. I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this? I'm like, I have no idea where to start even, to be honest with you. And there was a lot of influence around the time with the Sublime stuff happening and like things of that nature were popping off too. So I was influenced by that around the time too, vocally, and it really opened a door for me to be like, oh, I kind of get it. It's like, so I started experimenting and I came to practice one time and I was like, I got it. Check this out. And then without trying to go the typical reggae route, I think the inner punk or whatever you want to say in me like found a new way to do it, but differently to where it did make sense with the music we were already writing too. It was kind of aggressive at the same time, pretty, but it also had like a cool collaboration of both of those items that gave it some kind of intensity in some way. And so with that, we wrote that song, wrote another song called Sky's the Limit, and we had a local friend here named Derek Seidensticker. We still do. He's a radio DJ on 106.3 and 100.3 The Edge here in town back in the day.
Is it
And
still
he
around?
was now it's 103.9.
Okay. All
And
right.
a lot of it's changed so awful much, but it's a lot of the same people running it and DJing there and stuff of
Okay.
that nature. And so his stage name is, or his online name is Craven Moorhead. And so he would have a thing called Backyard Bollocks every Sunday where he would play all punk rock stuff, ska punk show. He had like 3 hours to play all the ska punk stuff. And people would circle around the radios like back then, like just like turn on the radio, and just that was the thing. And he did one local band every week. And so I was like, guys, we got to get on the show. Like, you have no idea how it's going to change our lives. Weirdly, it actually did. And so we recorded one of these demos and took it down to the station and slid it under the door. Like literally, I took it down there to the station in Phoenix, slid on the door, and I kept calling and calling and didn't get a lot of response immediately. But then when I did, he got back. He's like, "Hey, I really like you guys. You remind me of some old Descendants." And I was like, "Okay, sure, that sounds great. Then let's do it. Let's play it." I don't think so, but I love it because I love Descendants. So he did it one night. I remember, I'll never forget. We were in my drummer Jim's house, circled around his boombox, and just freaking out. It came on. He introduced us. We were like, we couldn't even hear what was going on the radio. We were freaking out so hard. But that happened, and then we stayed in contact. And then we come to find out he can record music as well as home studio. So we go from there. Fast forward a bit. We go to his house and re-record One More Minute, which came out on a thing called Patches in Time, which was before A Passage in Time, which was about 6, 7 songs. And we recorded Sky's the Limit as well. So when we did that, he then took this much better recording to the program director of The Edge, Nancy
Nancy.
Stevens.
Yeah.
Nancy, yeah. And so I saw her last week too. It's like we're still in touch and
Nice.
buddies. It's crazy, man. Fast forward so many years later, it's weird.
Yeah.
But we did that, and he showed it to her, and she's like, "This is really cool." She's like, "All right, I'll give it a spin. Why not?" You know. So she played it on primetime radio for us, and I was like, "What the fuck is happening right now?" And then people reacted to it locally, like, "Who is that band?" And that was cool, and people were like drawn in a little bit. And then we released One More Minute locally, and people went fucking nuts. It was crazy. Like the response we got from that dude, like the calls they would get into the station, I guess. Excuse me for that, guys. The calls you would get into the station, they would get in the station, like to hear it again, asking about the band's name, all these things. It was over the top. And so with that, we started drawing a really big local fan base. And from there, they kept on getting spins. It kept on getting more spins, you know, because of the interest. And then radio record labels have these charts that show that radio plays that are what bands are popping off, who's playing what, what's going on, who's signed, who's not signed. We were one of those bands getting a shitload of airplay in one town that was not signed, and it raised their interest. So we first heard from label Universal Republic Records, um, and that was just mind blowing right there. Like it started tumbleweeding really quickly. Um, they put out an offer to come out and see us, and they came out to see us. I'm sorry, and then put out an offer, and we're like, all right, well, we'll give it some thought. We had decent management. We had good management at the time. Actually, it was Brad Patrick with Bling Bling Management. They also managed Jay Z back then. We got that. We were like, what the hell is going on right now, dude?
Yeah.
And they were friends with he was friends with Nancy Stevens, so she was like, I got this guy that could probably help you guys get managed. And like we were like a fun project for him, like he thought it was cute, you know, kind of thing. And like he's like, oh, you guys are really trying, man. I got you. Don't worry. I got the money. I got the back. I got the politics and the ideals behind all this legal stuff. So it was freaking awesome, dude. And so they did that. Then all of a sudden, Lava Atlantic Records also then reached out, showing interest. And so then they came out, wine and dined us. They wanted to come see a show, which they saw at the Electric Ballroom back in the day, and it was sold out. And they were like, okay, well, we want to think about this a little bit. And then they went back. They're like, oh, it might be a fly by the season, fly by night kind of thing with this local band, and it'll be over soon. But it kept happening, which was really cool because we really pride ourselves on our live show, and especially when things started happening more, we give it 250%. And so we made sure people stayed paying attention, had a great time, and wanted to tell more people about the band. And so from there, with the radio still playing it, they came back out again, and they presented an offer to us. And it was just a better all-around offer than Universal had offered us as far as like our ability to do what we wanted to do, the leniency with like not the label stuff you hear about all the time with like once you sell your soul, you have to do all these things specific, you know. They seemed less that way. I won't say they were completely that way, but they seemed less that way to us as a bunch of kids. And it was a pretty killer deal. And it was a 2-record deal for Passage in Time and Andiamo. And so then we kicked the tires and lit the fires, and it was off to the races, dude. Like, we'd never been on tour, really. We toured Mexico for like a week or so, you know, or not toured, but played down there in Rocky Point for like the weekends or a week or two. And it was for free for booze and food, basically. So now it's a new ball game completely. They're like, we need to shoot a video. We need to get you guys in the studio. We need to get this thing going. So we did. Shot that music video for One More Minute at Brad Patrick's house, our manager's nice, expensive house. And
I watched that this morning before this interview, and it's amazing to me that you look like you grew like 4 feet since that video. You seem much taller. And
cool.
I don't know what it is.
Nobody goes the other way as you get older.
Yeah, but I mean that had to be a trip, like going from just your own local draw to now you're shooting a music video for MTV, and it like being that person in front of the camera changes things. So I'm sure like psychologically and like whatever was going on in that time frame had to be a real trip for you to go from what the hell is going, like
it was
what is going on right now,
We'd been a band for 7 years, like this local punk band nobody gave a shit about. Cause we weren't even a punk band. We were like a band that like was punk rock in our own right because we didn't do what punk bands were doing. We didn't play the, we didn't have the same influences like the other punk bands. Like we want to sound like these guys or that guy. We just all like listened to like Chili Peppers, Pennywise, Bad Religion, Operation Ivy, Rancid, all those guys too. But then Metallica, Megadeth, and hip hop. That was our band, like as a hodgepodge of like that's our band. We're like, how do we make this work? Oh, I know. We just do whatever we want. We play all the things that you want to play, that I want to play, and we make it work. And that kind of initially created our sound. So yeah, from there we were like, okay, 7 years later, now it's like, now we're getting started. It's like now your journey has begun. And all that was like warm up, which is great because we were not good. We were not good in the beginning. Like it was like one of those, we need to get signed. We need to get signed. Like, no, we didn't. We did not need to get signed back then because it would not have been a very good thing. So I think it was all for a purpose, all the leading up to it and learning. So just once again, the patience and like, things happen when they're supposed to kind of thing. And that came about and shot the video and then recorded that video also at Alice Cooperstown locally here too for the live stuff.
Yep.
And then the ghetto stuff back where we grew up in Mesa at our Mr. Nixon mascot friend's house with all the 40 ounces and stuff like that in the waters. And so we did that, and then we hit the ground running, man. We went on tour for that first year was like at least 3/4 of the year, like straight for a band that's never toured before. It was incredibly insane.